I call the meeting to order. The committee clerk will take a silent call, and there is a quorum established. Next item on the agenda today is a presentation from Jen Wood, Chief Marketing Officer, and Rodney Polly, Project Manager of ZMM Architects and Engineers. Thank you for being here today. Can you approach the podium and state your names?
I'm Jen Wood from ZMM Architects and Engineers.
Rodney Polly from ZMM Architects and Engineers.
Okay, and we also have the Department of Administration, Robert Kilpatrick.
Yeah, I'm Bob Kilpatrick with the General Services Division, Department of Administration.
Okay, can all three of you raise your right hands? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you for the opportunity to present on the Consolidated Labs project. A little bit of a microphone slip here. I'm Bob Kilpatrick. I'm the Director of the General Services Division. Since the inception of the project, Department of Administration has sort of taken the lead role as coordinator of all the stakeholders. In the end, this building will be a Department of Administration owned building, and the General Services Division will manage it, much like we manage the Capitol, any of the buildings on the Capitol complex. That was that's been the intent since the beginning of the project. We were gifted a large appropriation to be the central organizing state entity of the project. I've got Jen Wood here from ZMM who will present a little presentation, and Rodney Polly will follow up Jen, getting more into the meat of the presentation, and then we'll all be available for questions and answers afterwards. Jen?
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, members of the West Virginia Legislature, for having us here today. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Jen Wood from ZMM Architects and Engineers, and we're very pleased to be a part of this project. I'm going to provide a little bit of an overview about the project. I'm sure that you're familiar, but just to give you a little background, and then as Bob mentioned, Rodney will supply some additional technical insights as he is the project architect and project manager on this monumental and very important project. It is a complex project with a multitude of folks involved. Sorry, I lost the clicker there for a second. Thank you. We wanted to make sure that all of the parties involved were able to provide insight into this project to make sure that we get it right. And so there's more than 100 people among small groups that have been engaged providing insight and expertise for this project. We greatly appreciate that insight so that we're ensuring to provide the appropriate space and services and support for those that will be using the building once it is constructed. As you see on the screen, we have a myriad of folks that are involved in this project that we're very excited that will be a part of the West Virginia Consolidated Labs. The design team is composed of a few firms as well as some additional consultants. ZMM Architects and Engineers, we provide the project management and coordination of all of the other consultants so that the state of West Virginia and the General Services Division has one point of contact for all of the myriad of things that are going into this project. As we mentioned, you saw on the previous slide, the number of entities that are involved. In addition to that, we're providing architectural support as well as many other services that we provide in-house. Canon Design is providing specific lab design as that is their expertise. MWL has expertise in forensics and medical examiner laboratories, and Potesta and Associates is providing site civil engineering. As you see on the right side of the slide, there are additional specialty consultants, and roughly with both lists that are represented on this slide, there's about 60 professionals that are working on this project to ensure that the state of West Virginia has the best of the best. And we want to make sure that we're providing those services in conjunction with those consultants for this project. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Rodney Polly for more technical details about the project.
Hello, My name is Rodney Pauley. I'm a project manager and an architect at ZMM. I've been there for about 15 years. I'm roughly about 33 years into architecture at this point in my career, and this is a wonderful project here for the state of West Virginia. I wanted to run through the next slide we have here, which is our document timeline. Now, we put this slide in to give you guys an idea on what we have been doing over the last year and a couple months. First of all, we were awarded the contract on January 23rd. Right after that contract, because agriculture moved out of this building and West Virginia University and Marshall moved in, first thing we did is we went back and we put together a pre-design report that basically took the feasibility study that we did in 2023 and just reworked it and reworked the programs and the space allocations in that report to provide space for WVU and Marshall. So when we started design, kind of the third slide down there, or the third for schematic design, we started on June 17th is when we started working on the design of the building and coming up with the building design. And you can see that, you know, we're at June 16th here is when we submitted 95% contract documents to General Services for review. So we're about 1 year in right now on building design. During the site schematic design package, we put out a site grading package that started basically on the same day in June, and we put that out on October 9th. And I'll talk a little bit more about the schedule for the site package upcoming. The next slide here is just a kind of an overview of the site that we're working at up at the West Virginia Regional Technology Park. We've been working with the Tech Park now for many years, but over the past probably 2.5 years, we've been working with them to look at the site that they have, which is called the Timberland site. It is a site right now that used to be basically a hill or a mountain, and it was basically demolished to provide dirt for the Park Place development down in South Charleston, where maybe if you all know where Chick-fil-A's at. So all that dirt was taken away, and what that left was a 10.5 acre, basically flat site. And that was the deal that the Tech Park made with Park Place, was we would like to have another building pad to build a future building on. And it just so happened that at the same time, we were working on this design and went there first. Building fits on this site very nicely. So this is where we ended up basically putting the building. Now, a couple of things on here. This is the junction of Union Carbide Drive. We've got utilities coming from the back of 740. We've got some sewer lines that are going down over the hill to Jefferson Road to tie into that construction development that we've been coordinating. Also, AEP has a substation at the very top of the hill at the Tech Park, which is a large substation that serves basically, a good chunk of the Kanawha Valley. And right there is one of the big reasons that we moved here to the Tech Park, is that we could get electrical redundancy in our building. So we have 2 feeds coming from this electrical substation, separate feeds coming into our building that'll provide redundancy and allow this building to be operational almost 24/7. The next slide is basically the slide of our site plan as it sits right now. And you can kind of see this entry road right here is coming in. And there is a little loop that comes up, and there's a driveway leading up here that says AEP Access Road. That's an existing access road that AEP has back up to the hill to work on their substation. And what it does is it creates kind of a little mound right here as it goes up, kind of a little hidden, tucked in little spot right here. But when you come around the building from down below, we come through a guard shack here that is going to be the first security point for this complex. And it's going to have a couple of lanes for, visitors and for basically the occupants of the building. And this site is set up very similar, very simple, where we've got a large parking area in the front, the building is in the middle, and then our security court, service court, is in the back. And that way you can loop around here. Trucks can come around the perimeter, get back into this gate and come back into the service court, do what they need to do, and then exit the site without, basically tangling with any occupants. The entrance to the building is right here in the front. The building is oriented kind of southeast, which is a very good orientation for some of the topics I'm going to talk about in a little bit regarding sun angles. But this building right here is 288,000 square feet. And just to kind of put that in perspective for you all, that is about just a little over half the size of the West Virginia State Capitol. So we're about 55% of the Capitol right now. This floor plate here is about 80,000 square feet. The floors that elevate up above that are about 65,000 square feet. So we have a very, very large building. Speaking of the site, this is the update I wanted to bring to you a little bit earlier. This is kind of what the timeline was for the site package. We bid this project and received bids on this on November of 2024. K&N Contracting was the low bidder. And basically what this is just a minimal site package because the site is very well prepped as it sits right now. But we had to do just a little site grading, and we started some utilities and some other site preparation up there to Tech Park. And that project's going to be about 180-day duration. And strangely enough, the notice to proceed for that project goes out today. So they will be on site today, beginning work. And their substantial completion date is in December, right before Christmas, which basically puts their final completion at January 21st of 2026. Now, I want you all to remember that date because later in the presentation, it kind of coordinates with kind of our timeline moving forward on this project. The next few slides are going to be some of the floor plans for the project. And there's not a lot here I wanted to kind of show you guys other than just kind of the length of the building and the complexity of the floor plates. Over here on the side, you can see that we've got weights and measures down here. We've got all the accessioning and storage for Department of Health. A lot of this white area in the middle is all of our building services, loading dock, mechanical, electrical plans. All this purple spot down through here is all the first floor of the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for the state of West Virginia. And then this blue here in the back is all of the first floor amenities that are related to the State Police Forensics Lab. As you move up in the building, this is when the building gets kind of a very simple layout, a very straightforward layout for a lot of reasons. We have designed this with a middle core, which we call the Valley, kind of after the Kanawha Valley. It's kind of our hub in the building. It's kind of our lobby in the building. And each wing, we call this the West Wing and we call this the East Wing. And on the West Wing here, we have all the Department of Health areas. And then over here, we have all of the office space for the Chief Medical Examiner. Now, they do have one toxicology lab up here, but they have about 120 people just in this area on the floor. If you move up in the building, once again, you have the same layout of the main corridor coming down the middle that kind of divides this building in half with the lobby in the middle. The way this is set up, with this facing due south, the back of the building faces due north. The great thing about that is that we are able to control the sun with the building design and window blinds and things like that on the front, which also the south side of this plan on the site, once you get up there, is just a wonderful view over the trees, looking over towards 119. And then the backside of this building is all facing north. We wanted to make sure that all the laboratories had great north light so that basically they can leave their windows open all day without getting any direct sunlight into their space. Lots of windows along the backside. It's going to be a very nice space for them to work in. Moving up to the fourth floor, once again, we have, well, hold on, let me back up one slide. I wanted to make a point that Marshall enters the building here on the 3rd floor, right beside our cafe that we have in the middle. You move up to the 4th floor, you have the BSL-3 labs for Department of Health with their office space across the hall. And then we have WVU here in the middle. And we have a smaller lobby on this floor. And then this entire floor here is all labs for state police forensics on the north side and office space on the south side. Now, the next slides we're going to look at after we look at the penthouse. This penthouse, we've got an east penthouse over here and a west penthouse that's basically serving only that wing of the building, with a little central penthouse where we have all of our electrical. So we've got large penthouse over top of OCME and forensics. Each one of them has stairs and elevators where you can bring equipment and stuff straight up through the elevator. Now, these are some of the renderings that we have that are just recent renderings for the project. And I'm going to flip through these. I just want to bring up a couple of things on each one of them. This is basically showing the main entrance to the building. We've got a monumental stair that goes up through the building all the way on the front that's you can see through the glass. And this is the main entrance. We've got metal panel on the exterior of the building on this south side. And we have structurally glazed curtain wall, which gives it a smooth look similar to the metal panel. Very modern, sleek design with punched windows right here that are behind basically in offices and other small rooms, conference rooms, things like that. And then here's another rendering of the corner of the building right as you're looking at it from the guardhouse, where you can see kind of the break between the slick front of the metal panel design. And then we go back to a metal panel design here on the side, but we do it with a corrugated system where we take the corrugated system and we just basically lay it in a different location, in a different orientation with the same panel. So that saves us, it's very cost effective, and it gives us a lot of light play on the building that you would normally have if they were all turned the same way. This is a detailed look at the main entrance. And, you know, we have this building designed for about 450 people. And most of the people are going to come in at possibly 2 or 3 different entrances and exits throughout the building. But this is the main entrance where the majority of the people come in. This side over here, probably from about this point right here, is the monumental stair that goes up through the building that you can see from the entrance. But the staff entrance is right here. And then once you have this past this black column, everything to this side that we're using the light to kind of funnel people into this larger opening is going to be the visitor opening. And behind that wall, there is a secure lobby with bullet resistant glass and bullet resistant glazing at the reception desk. And then right behind this wall, there's going to be a door that will allow them to leave the secure lobby and go into the more public lobby for the building. This is an interesting shot that we have that shows the building kind of in the winter months. You can see the slick metal panel that we have and the glass and the glazing that looks smooth, just like the metal panel, with the individual punched openings, and then the lighting underneath the overhang that will represent the stair and the entrance. And then this last shot is of the approach, kind of the exit and the approach to the building coming up the hill from the tech park, where you're going to see the back of the building here, where we have the metal panel that is organized left and right, essentially, for the corrugations to allow them to have a lot of light play. You can see some of these dark lines in between. We've trimmed these out to kind of separate these to provide this like with a quilting pattern on the back, just to give it another kind of level of detail. And as you can see, there's no slick metal panel back here, no long sections of curtain wall. These are all the punched openings because these are all the windows that go directly into each one of the labs. And the labs need that wall space for their cabinetry and for their equipment. So it works out much better to have these smaller windows with areas in between. You can see there's some large areas in between with where they have some of their equipment. Now, the last slide I have to present is kind of our timeline that we are working off of that basically begins today. And what I mean by that is you can see the June 16th date is when we submitted the drawings to General Services for review. And that has already happened. We presented that last week. They're currently in General Services hands. They're reviewing them, going to provide us with comments. And then once we get comments, we will determine how long it's going to take us to put those together. And then we will set a date, work towards that date. And we are basically holding kind of a tentative date as sometime the middle to the end of August to have that activity complete. Once that building gets complete, we will go straight into advertising and bidding an award for the procurement of the building. That is about a 5-month timeline that'll go through the advertising of the building, couple months for bid, couple months for contract preparation, which is pretty standard. It could lengthen out a little bit depending on how the bids come in, but we're very hopeful. Building construction starts February 2nd. The reason I wanted you to make aware of that is back on the construction slide where I showed you the end of January that the construction will be completed. This is set up to where on February 2nd, we could possibly award a notice to proceed to the general contractor. They could begin work immediately after the site construction is complete. And that will take place for about 24 months. And during that period, probably in about August of 2027, we're thinking we're going to have the building commissioning. That's all the quality assurance, testing and reviewing of all the mechanical systems, all of the equipment that's going to be brought over from all of the stakeholders, and just to make sure that the building is running operationally correct and will be, used very effectively for the next, hopefully 25, 30 years. And then basically move-in starts on March 16th and runs for about 3.5 months into June. So I think that is all we have to present today, but we appreciate your all's time and thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? I recognize the co-chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the presentation. Thank you very much. I have a few questions to ask. I know you were before us in December of last year. We originally talked about, I think, around November to February 2028 being a move-in date, and now we're back to June 2028. Are there specific reasons for why? I know I didn't originally believe we were going to get in there in 2026, I think was the original thing back in 23, but are there reasons for the continued delays?
Hard for us to characterize it as delay in this.
Okay.
And it's been a complex process of bringing 7 principal stakeholders representing 100 state employees, working with 60+ design team members on a $200 million building project.
Right.
I think on average, having started and been in about the 15th month of design right now, that is a pretty expedited schedule for a building of the size, complexity, with the co-location overlay on it of bringing in multiple stakeholders like this.
Yeah, I agree. So I've heard a couple of things through this timeline. Are we anticipating any later? I mean, I think it could be delayed potentially even further. Is that correct?
It's hard to predict.
Yeah,
Hard to
okay.
predict the future. Right now, I mean, having 95% construction documents in hand, we're done with the difficulties of trying to bring people into the room, trying to coordinate meetings, trying to really manifest the ideas that are going into developmental and schematic design on this. Like, we have documents in hand.
Okay.
So for us, I don't have a lot of $200 million examples,
Right.
but for us, finalizing construction documents, bidding a construction project, awarding it, and executing it, like, the only delays you see, the largest delays we see are in projects where there are a lot of unknowns.
Mm.
We spent 16 months getting rid of a lot of the unknowns. We're on a flat site.
Yeah.
We're not going to uncover hazardous materials. We're not going to run into other delays where a contractor could file claim against us for delay.
Right. Well, that's
I
what,
mean,
okay.
new buildings
That
are
was my
actually
question.
easier to build than renovation projects.
So like, are we confident, like K&N has been awarded, right, to do the
Mhm.
site prep, I guess, and they're due by January of 26. Are there any, are there incentives or any potential damages if they don't finish in time? Is there anything with that?
I don't remember the number exactly, but the contract, it's very common for us in construction contracts to have a rigidly thought out liquidated damages clause depending on what we would suffer in terms of delay. So
Okay.
that contract does include a liquidated damages
Okay,
clause.
it does.
Sorry, I
Okay.
don't have the number.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to know that for sure.
We generally scale to size.
Yeah.
So it's a $1.6 million contract.
Right.
So we
Okay.
try to sort of think about what does a day of that
Math.
contract cost us?
Right.
It's going to be very hard for us to come up with a really good number for a $215 million construction
Right.
project, but yeah, we'll also have liquidated damages in that.
Perfect. Thank you. And then a couple more questions. I know that in December of last year, talked about it being about 10% over cost or over budget, I think. What is the total cost today? And is it in line with that 10%
So-
overage?
One of the things we requested from the design team in our contract is that we get periodic cost estimates by their professional cost estimator.
Yes.
So when we gave the last update, we were at developmental design.
Yes.
So still a lot of questions to be answered and things to be worked out. And that was $247 million.
Okay.
So yeah, that was over the number. Well, the last months have been spent thinning,
Okay.
narrowing things down. We're at 95% construction documents.
Mhm.
And our cost estimate for that submitted is 215.
200. Okay.
So given that we have about 226 million left in the appropriation, it's a comfortable place. Bidding market conditions are volatile right
Of
now,
course.
but we're hoping that cost as it was presented in the 95% phase escalates, takes into consideration escalation for an award in November.
Okay.
I think we'll be ahead of that
Okay.
or right on it.
Yeah.
So it took into consideration. It also has a contingency built into it.
There's about 3% construction
Right.
contingency. And like I said, we have a 2% cost escalation carried through December this year.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Thank you. Any further questions of the committee? Okay, is there any other business to come before the committee? There being no further business before the committee, I recognize the co-chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adjourn.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned.